Going into our presentations now, our first presentation is by Paul Hendy, who is the director of TS4 Living. TS4 Living was the company behind Australia's first designed and built zero-carbon house. Paul was mainly influenced by his father's construction business as a little one. And Paul currently is now passionate about improving the efficiency and sustainability of both new and existing buildings, while ensuring that architectural creativity and originality is maintained to create inspiring spaces and suitable environment for the future generations. So I'll just welcome Paul up to the stage.
Hopefully this will all work. It's been very quick off the sort of press, or still wet, I think. TS4. I sort of have a lot of people ask me what it stands for, so I just thought I'd tell you before somebody says, what does TS4 stand for? It's the space for, and in this case, the space for living. What do we do? It's climate responsive homes. I have done for the last 9 years. So, the all-electric home. No doubt you've probably read about it, and this is exactly what it is. There are no other services going there. The gas was taken out to the extent where they turned up with a very large digger to dig up the road without just disconnecting it. I did tell them otherwise. That's actually my home, so it's an interesting one. It's rather than just pointing to a client's house, it's actually my house. So it's been quite an interesting learning curve. So what makes a good, sustainable, low-energy home? Well, we're all probably familiar with passive design in this room, and if we're not, well, I'll give you a very, very quick crash course. Good orientation, so when you go and buy a building site, make sure it faces the right way. It makes life easier, although you can normally make most buildings work. Natural ventilation always helps, including ceiling fans as well. Passive heating and cooling, yes, we all know about that, because when we have so much sunlight here, let me see, it's about 3 times more than I grew up in the UK, which, yes, it was quite dark and dingy. It's free energy, it's there for us in winter. Shading, well, passive cooling is great and sunlight's great, but we need to stop it in the summer, and we're not very good at doing that on a lot of modern houses. And insulation and ceiling. 2 things that we sort of forget about quite a lot. Now, all of the TS4 homes, including my own actually, when it is finished, will actually be blower door tested, and will actually have a camera, thermal imaging camera over it, which it has done so far actually. That's the winter solstice. Great design. People say to me quite often, boy, we used to design houses better than we do these days. You'll see this is a lovely veranda. It's a little turn of the century, 1904 cottage. And it stops all the sun coming in the winter solstice. So it is cold, it is dark. The house, wonderful. Actually, my wife brought the house or convinced me to buy it because I knew what was wrong with it. And what is wrong with it? Well, passive design doesn't exist. Okay, it's poorly orientated. The road frontage is north facing, so all of the living space, garden, etc. is south. Natural ventilation, it doesn't have any, because the windows open, they've been painted over, they're sash windows. Passive heating and cooling. Well, it's definitely got cooling. I wouldn't say it's got much heating until we've had 40 degrees for 3 or 4 days. And then it's got too much heating. Shading, it's got lots of shading, but it doesn't work. No shading on the east and west windows. Insulation, and ceiling. Yeah, well, you can probably imagine what that's like in an old house. I did an Energy Star rating of it. It came out at 0.9. 0.9 is not very good in the overall scheme of things. It had terrible thermal comfort. It was ferociously cold, ferociously hot in the summer actually, and uncomfortably cold, or dreadfully cold, whatever other word you want to put in there. I can think of many expletives sometimes. Basically, at the end of the day, it compromised lifestyle. Okay, I did not enjoy the house. In fact, I've never enjoyed living in Australia because it's the coldest place in the world to live. Okay, if you come from the Northern Hemisphere. So for 3 months, I'm very unhappy. For the rest of the time, it's the best place in the world, apart from New Zealand. But I digress. And it was incredibly expensive to run. phenomenal. I mean, now I would estimate our bills would be in the region of $4,000, and that's plus gas. And I'm reasonably careful with energy as well. So just for you, the people here, just to understand what all this sort of Energy Star rating is about, it's about megajoules per square metre per annum. So the amount of energy that we use. And my house was up here. And what does that equate to? Well, it equates to something in the region of about 140 kilowatt hours per square metre, which is quite a lot, depending on how big your house is. But now, it's down here, which is 36 megajoules per square metre, and equates to about 10 kilowatts. So it's quite a difference. Yeah, that's a huge energy saving and a huge improvement. Much further, you can go to 10 star, actually costs you quite a lot to get there. Existing house, lean-to, I'm sure we've seen them before. Small lot, 270 square metres. Living space, sleeping space, utility space. What I decided to do was remove the area that bled energy and replace it with exactly the same 8x8 format, which is slightly better insulated. So we have living space, sleeping space, utility space, and more living space. We also have a basement, which gives us more utility and sleeping space. And I did that because I still wanted to have a garden remaining, rather than just building it out completely. Solar access, yay, through a large gable end, which gives me around 6 metres of additional space. You can see it here. That's the old roof you're looking at here. And I'll get to the bit of shiny stuff tin there in a minute. So what does that mean? It means that I can actually even illuminate my basement with sunlight. People think basements are dark and dingy. They're not. They don't have to be. Mine's actually lighter, ironically, than the front rooms of the house, which I find quite bizarre. People don't believe me, so if you don't, come and see for yourselves. Okay, now you certainly get a certain amount of solar gain there, and the typical natural sort of temperature gain is about 5 degrees in winter on the room space. Passive, active in the winter, yeah, well what we have is a certain amount of heat that will come off the slab. It's a suspended concrete slab. There's also a fire, slow combustion heater in there as well, which is a very efficient unit. We have 1 minute left. Jeez, okay, I've completely blown this. I'm going to go very quickly now. There's a cool tube involved in there as well, which pulls in cold air in the winter, warm air in the summer. This is passive cooling. We have high-level windows, which are electronically controlled. And the effect, basically, the effect is a stacked cooling effect. I'll go very quickly. There's a cool tube down there. As you can see, I didn't actually practice this before I came. Okay, and there's a few more arrows. That's great, isn't it? We'll get to the last bit. Okay, I'm going to have to go very quick now. 22 seconds. Right, light bulb. Okay, there's KNX automation. It's very high levels insulation. Oh, forget all that. Okay, it looks like this. Okay, I saved 70%, and I'll go even quicker. Sorry, and a happy face. That's what it looks like. Okay, so it gives an idea of what you can do with an old house rather than demolish it, and that's my whole point. We don't need to do that. Okay, and it's got a few bits of rusty still for trend. There we go. Thank you very much.